if I spent the time networking locally, I would be wasting my time. I charge $1,000 an hour now. They look at me and go, "Who are you to charge that?"
Today on Time We Discuss, I have Kathy with me from Virtual Expert Training. Kathy, thank you for joining me today.
Great to be here. I'm so excited to be on Time We Discuss.
I'm very excited for this too. I'm very excited about your path because I know you had a corporate job. Then you transitioned into a virtual assistant. You did that for a number of years, and then you founded your own virtual expert training company. So I'd like to talk about first as a virtual assistant, what that was like. So how did you get started as that, and what is that really like?
A virtual assistant is an independent contractor who typically works from their home, but they can work from anywhere, okay? Literally anywhere in the world, as long as you have internet. And I think just about any place has internet now. I worked in the corporate world at a Fortune 500 company for almost 20 years. And my tipping point was when I was told that I laughed and smiled too much. And until I changed that, I would never be promoted again. So I was like, what? I love laughing and smiling. That's my number one thing I enjoy in life. And others around me seem to like it. So I did a lot of soul searching and decided that I was going to quit and start my own business. And let me tell you, I was like, looking back, I think, how did I have the courage? And it was probably just the naivety. I don't know how to say that word right. Because I was 40 at the time. I knew nothing about starting my own business. I'd been an employee my entire life. And so I jumped in and accidentally found out about the virtual assistant industry. Because back then, it was the pioneer days, it was pioneer days of the internet. But I was fortunate enough to run into a real estate agent who was helping my husband and I buy a home. And I'm very opinionated, which you may find out during this interview. And I told him, I said, your website sucks. You need work on it. And he said, well, why don't you do the work? And I'm like, oh, yes, I could do that. So I started marketing for him. And then, and this was in Kansas City, Missouri. And then my husband's job went away and we had to move back to our hometown because we had a home there that we owned. And I said, let's you retire and I'll start this VA business. So I asked the real estate agent, I said, could I work for you from my home, 500 miles away? And he goes, yeah, you're a virtual assistant. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what I did. And I asked my husband to give us 6 months. Well, 3 months in, he was like, I'm never moving again. I love living here because we live in a forest, literally a national forest. And my business started to grow. Took a little while. I had to make some missteps like underpricing, not knowing that when you compete on price, you lose. When you compete on low price, you lose. So I learned how to price better, price higher, and the clients just started coming in. And I got to the point where I had 70 clients with a team of 5 helping me run this real estate marketing virtual assistant business. Yes, I was making 6 figures.
So from the time you started till you got to that point, how much time had passed?
3 years, because I spent the first year trying to get people to hire me for $15 an hour. Okay. And then fortunately, I met a really good marketing coach, and she said, you need to increase your price to $75 an hour. And I'm like, increase my price that much? And she said, she gave me the best advice: do research, find out what others in your industry who are doing the same thing you are doing are charging. And then she asked me, are you the best at what you do? And I said, yes, I'm really, really good at it. And she goes, then you need to be $10 an hour higher than anybody else out there. And that's what I did. And once I did that, then, real estate agents told me the reason they hired me was because, well, you're the highest, most expensive, so you must be the best, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So I literally had a waiting list of about 15 to 20 at all times.
Wow. Kathy, it's interesting you say that because I learned that I made that mistake too. Out of college, me and 2 other of my friends, we formed a limited liability corporation. And we knew we could afford that, or we could charge very good pricing, and we knew we had a good product. But what we found was that people didn't take us seriously because they think that, low price, low quality. And we had to kind of then fight that off essentially. So I know exactly what you're saying.
So you do have very low overhead when you work as a virtual assistant or virtual expert, as I call them. But you still have overhead. You still have to pay taxes. So people that want to hire you for that, just, they're not the clients you want. They're nickel and dimers, and they will constantly be trying to get you to discount. So hire people who value you.
Let's talk about the virtual assistants. What types of things do they do? Are they sending emails? Are they creating websites? Are they doing marketing materials, social media? What do they typically do?
I want to start by just talking a little bit about terminology. So virtual assistant, freelancer, independent contractor, all of those are really the same thing. And unfortunately, today, the term freelancer and virtual assistant are a commodity. And that means people really view them as admin. And admins, they don't want to pay more than $25 to $30 an hour. Okay. And I've done lots and lots of research. I've been doing nothing but this industry since 2001. So I know what I'm talking about. And thus I came up with the term virtual expert. So any term, I've got this one trademarked, so unless you work with me, you cannot use it. But anything other than VA and freelancer, any terminology that's going to make you sound like you know what you're talking about, right? That will get you immediate higher value, higher perceived value. And so as a virtual assistant, freelancer, independent contractor, you get to choose what you do. So if you want to specialize as a bookkeeper, that's a great thing to specialize as a techie guru, and even further than just techie, specialize in some particular software. So for example, I use the software Kajabi to run my training program. And I have people that have specialized in Kajabi because it's a huge all-in-one platform that somebody needs to really understand how to run. Or the current really popular one is Go High Level. I have people that have specialized in Go High Level. You can specialize as a writer. That's what I did, writing and marketing for real estate agents. You can specialize in an industry also. Like I specialized in real estate because each industry really has its own terminology. And when you specialize in that, so for example, I was just on a coaching call with one of my clients. She's specializing as a professional speaker and author, virtual expert, because then she understands how to market them, how to help them get their books written, published, marketed, all that good stuff. So really, there's an unlimited amount of things you can specialize in. And I do recommend specializing because just like doctors, if you go to a general practitioner, he doesn't make as much as the brain surgeon, right? So as a virtual assistant, independent contractor, when you specialize, you earn more and you can get better at what you do and enjoy it more too.
When it comes to people that are achieving these specializations, how does a person then find these specialists? Are there platforms out there? Or is everyone running their own website? Are they running their own social media campaigns? How do people find those experts?
Another big flaw that a lot of people believe is that I'm going to be a VA and I need my website up now. No, don't put a website up yet. You don't know what you're specializing in. You don't know how to talk to your clients yet. What you need to do is you need to go get a free LinkedIn profile, which you probably already have, and update it to talk about what you do, okay, and how you help clients. So that's step one, LinkedIn. Then step two is you could put your profile on any of the job opportunity sites like Upwork. Put your information out there. Now, a lot of people are like, well, out there's people overseas who really are charging $5, $10, and $15 an hour. Yeah, you're not going to compete against them. You're going to put your full price on there, what you specialize in, and those people who want to hire you and value that, they're going to hire you at that price, even though there's $5, $10, and $15 an hour people out there. And then if you just do one more thing, you never have to do anything else if you do this, which is network. And I'm not talking about going to your local, chamber of commerce. I'm talking about getting to know people online, and I love using LinkedIn to do that. And ideally, people who also work with your target market, not your target market, but people who work with your target market. So, for example, real estate agents. Real estate agents need a website, they need copywriting to have on the website, they need social media marketing, they need all of that, right? So, let's say you're going to specialize in social media marketing for real estate agents. Network with people who create websites for real estate agents, and you guys can refer clients to each other. That is how I built the real estate marketing business I had with 70 clients. Is that I call them power partners, or you can call them key referral partners.
That's very smart. I remember, and I talked about this on a previous segment. My father had his own business, and he started out as a trophy company. And he slowly added on to, he would do engraving and got into different apparel and stuff like that. But the one thing he never did was embroidering. And he ended up having a person that did the embroidering, and he would get his stuff from that person or refer people to them, and then vice versa. So that's very smart. I can understand what you're saying with that from personal experience there.
Yeah, and when someone refers you, that's their endorsement, right? So typically when you talk with someone who has been referred to you, they're ready to hire you.
Right now, you've had this business for a number of years. What is
Mhm.
your actual day-to-day like at this level?
I'm going to talk about working actually as a virtual expert, right? So I'm going to talk about this lady that I just got off the phone with. Her name's Kirby. She's been in this industry almost a year. Okay. And she was a manager at a bank, and quit that and started her business. Took some time to learn it. Now she has 4 clients. Each of them want about 30 or 40 hours of her time a month. So 4 clients, 40 hours a month. Guess what? That fills up 4 weeks. That fills up your month, right? So the challenge isn't having to get clients. If you know how to get clients, which obviously I know how to get clients, and I teach people how to do that, but it's how to manage that time, right? So how do you manage that time? I love time blocking. For example, if you're going to do 40 hours worth of work for one client each month, you're not going to do that all in one week. So each week you might say, Monday afternoons, I'm going to work for Kathy. Wednesday afternoons, I'm going to work for Time We Discuss. Thursday afternoons, I'm going to work for. So you block your time. And then that's what you actually do is you do the client work. So you get up, get online whenever you want to. You work whenever you want to, but you have to put those hours in. So I have people who really love working, believe it or not. This is not me. Noon to like 8 p.m. I mean, yeah, noon to 8 p.m. They can. I'm an early bird, so I get up and get going early, and then I'm done by about 2:30 or 3. And then you do have some client meetings, and you have to do your own marketing and your own, learning and training and stuff like that. So you block that time. And that's what you do. If you want to, like, I take off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I just time block that off, because if I don't, it gets booked up. But
That
that's
makes
what
sense.
it is. It's behind, and I just talked to somebody the other day who's a hairdresser, and she's thinking about becoming a virtual expert. And I'm like, my number one concern is, how do you feel about working at a computer 30 hours a week, 30, 40 hours a week? Because you're used to being up and moving and talking with people and being by yourself all that time too. Because that's really what this business is.
Kathy, I'm glad you mentioned that, because every once in a while I'll ask this, and I actually haven't asked this question in a while. So one of the things I'd like to identify with particular occupations or careers, it's like, what is something that could be a deal breaker for someone? And like what you just said, if they cannot sit in front of a computer for 30, 40 hours a week, or, 8 hours at a time or whatever, this
Right.
might not be for them. So are there any other attributes of this type of career that, if a person doesn't like this, maybe look somewhere else?
One of the big things that I've done in my program is I've created an online community of other virtual experts, and we get together via Zoom a lot. If you really need that personal interaction, which I have found there are some people who really love going into an office so that they can have that face-to-face personal. If you have to have that, this is not the business for you. I will tell you that about 95% of everyone I've ever trained is self-proclaimed introvert. So they love not having to be face to face with people. That's what they want to do. They love supporting others. The challenge with that is, and this is another one that can be a deal breaker, and I have really worked hard to make this doable for introverts, is you do have to market yourself and you do have to put yourself out there. Now, I teach you how to do it in a way that is, written out script, exactly what to do. And it's really not salesy at all because nobody wants to be sold to. And still, you have to put yourself out there. And some people simply can't do it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because like any job, or I'm sorry, anytime you have your own business, when you're self-employed, essentially, you got to be prepared to do that. You got to be prepared to talk about yourself a little bit. And if that's an issue, that's obviously a problem. What types of things do you recommend in the real world environment? Do you recommend that people get involved at all with specific local community, like small business community organizations or anything like that, or stick to online? What do you typically tell your people?
It really varies depending on where you live. So, as I've already mentioned, I live in a very rural community and I live in the Midwest. And people in the Midwest who do not work online, they still have the mindset of paying $15, $20 an hour, right? So you have to take that into consideration. And if I spent the time networking locally, I would be wasting my time because they're not going to pay me. I charge $1,000 an hour now. They're not going to pay that. In fact, they look at me and go, "Who are you to charge that?" Literally, I've had that. But when you're online, you can work with anyone anywhere. So look at where the people are that value and can afford to pay what you want to earn. So with real estate, it's the coast. Anybody on the West Coast or the East Coast, those real estate properties in the Midwest, our average is 250,000 a house. On the coast, they start at $1 million, right? And real estate agents earn the same commission whether they're in Midwest or on the coast. So all of my 70 clients were on the coast because $75, $100 an hour to them is nothing compared to that $25 an hour in the Midwest. So you just have to really think about that, where your target market is. That's another reason to specialize.
That's awesome. That's really, really good information. Great perspective as well. Now, how about this? What about where they're just starting out, okay? And let's just say they want to charge $75 an hour, but they don't feel like they have the portfolio to support that, where people might look at it and just, oh, they're not an expert. They're nothing, What do you say to people like that?
If you're starting out and that's your scenario and you need to get a little bit of experience, what I recommend doing is doing your research, setting your price based on what you want it to be. Okay. What you believe it should be after you've gotten a little bit of experience. Then your first 3 clients, I call them charter clients. You can call them whatever you want. But I call them charter clients. Give them a charter client discount of how long will it take you to get that experience. If you really know what you're doing, you can get really good experience in 3 months. No, you've never written before, you're going to need 6 months. And give them a discount. And I like to give like a $10 an hour discount. And put in your contract, regular price, $75 an hour, $10 an hour discount for the first 6 months, $65 an hour. Here's the date that ends, and you automatically go to the $75 an hour. So you got a built-in raise for yourself. I do recommend when you're really new and just starting, charging an hourly rate so that you learn how long things take you, and then very quickly moving to package rates. Especially now that AI is involved, you can get things done really quickly. So you shouldn't really be based on hourly rates for a very long period of time. Go to package rates as quickly as you can.
Now, how about this? What about when someone says, okay, it's an hourly rate, but how many hours do you think this is going to take you? How do you suggest a newer person answer that question?
As a business owner, what I really like is I like a not to be exceeded cap. I call it a monthly budget. So the lowest is 0 and the highest is what do you want it to be? Is your budget 1,000 a month? The highest is 1,000 a month, right? So then you give them work, give them work, give them work. And if the virtual expert gets close to 1,000 and they haven't finished all their work, then they need to email or talk to the client and say, hey, here's what I have left to do. You want me to wait and do that next month? Or do you want me to go ahead and go over by this amount this month? Clients love that.
Kathy, we didn't talk education at all, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. If someone wants to go down this road, what kind of education do they need? Do they need to have a marketing background to market themselves and their business? What experience do they need?
Absolutely not. They need no degree whatsoever. Guess how many times since 2001, here we are in 2024, I have ever been asked what my degree is in, or if I even have one.
I'm going with 0.
That's exactly right. When I was brand new to this and I did not know how to market myself, I would volunteer it because I thought when I came out of that corporate world and I have an MBA and I was like, I have an MBA, I'm going to be awesome. Everybody's going to hire me. I told one person I had an MBA and she's like, I'm not hiring you. You're overqualified. I never told anyone again.
Wow.
And when I'm talking with people about could they be a great virtual expert, I don't ask them what. If they have a college degree or what it's in. About 50% of the people in my program do have college degrees. It's not what they do the work in though. They don't have computer science degrees or English degrees or anything like that. Because when you do this, I recommend you do what you enjoy. And a lot of times that has nothing to do with what your degree was on.
I was actually just going to ask you, what trends are you seeing for growth in this field? What kind of experts are kind of needed right now? But you mentioned, do what you enjoy. But still, what's kind of needed right now? What are you seeing? Anything in particular?
Overall, I just want to mention AI is not decreasing this industry. Okay. All you need to do is know AI so that you can use it and you can be more productive and promote that you know it because your clients want you to use it for them, right? This is not something that suddenly has, made all the need for VAs go away. Still needed, just learn AI, and AI is not hard to learn. I am not techie at all. I can barely turn my computer on still. And if something goes wrong, I just have to restart it or I don't know what to do. And I use AI. That's how easy it is to use. Bookkeeping is always going to be hot, right? Writing is always going to be hot. And again, use AI with the writing. Just don't use it as your final product. It sounds like a robot. Let's see what else. Any kind of tech. Right now, I mentioned Go High Level. That is really popular right now. And I'm always looking for what the most popular technology software platforms are to make sure that I have somebody in my program or many people in my program that are using it. So right now, I think we have somebody for every technology that's really hot out there. So like Entreport, Kajabi, Kartra, Keep, Go High Level, FG Funnel Switches, Go High Level's white label. Do you have any that you have heard?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm glad you mentioned AI. I was speaking with the founder of a small business, Little Guy AI, and he's in New Jersey, and we were talking about AI. We had quite a wonderful conversation about it, and it was pretty much exactly what you're saying. The people that know how to use it as a tool, and that's the key, I think, to use it as a tool. It's going to be indispensable. People that use it to write the resume fully or write a story fully, that's probably not the greatest idea. But to use it as a tool, as a springboard, is huge. So I'm glad to hear, it's starting to kind of get in the mainstream a little bit as far as like, the quote unquote regular folk,
Right.
learn how to use it.
It's creativity, really great creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought of two more. Social media marketing. So, and ideally you would narrow it to platforms that you really want to specialize in. So like, for example, you can say, I'm going to be a writer. Great. That's a niche. Then I'm going to focus on LinkedIn. And I'm going to write great LinkedIn profiles and great LinkedIn newsletters. And so then you've really narrowed. And how much easier is it to market when you say, do you want to know how to get leads from LinkedIn? Because you have a great profile, you have consistent posting, you have a newsletter, you have all of those things. So that's the way that I recommend doing it. You begin narrowing and continue to narrow until you are unique.
That's awesome. That's really, really great advice. Kathy, I'm running a little short on time, but one thing I want to make sure I do, whenever I'm speaking with someone, I like to give them the opportunity to share a project they're working on, a cause they believe in, their business. So I'd like to turn the floor over to you if there's something special you'd like to talk about. The floor is yours.
One of my sayings is what one woman can do, another can do. So if you're listening to this and you think, because I hear this all the time, I don't care if you have a PhD or you have a GED, the whole gamut, women say, I don't know if I could do it. I'm not like you. I don't know if I could do it. Any woman can do this. If I can do it, anyone can. And I have taught hundreds of women to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. One of the saddest things that I hear from women is, I've never been asked what I want to do, what I would enjoy. And so I want you to think about, what do you really want? What would you enjoy? Because you can make a business out of this and make it as big or as little as you want, and change with you as your life changes. So right now, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can work it around your children. If you're like me and a grandma, you can then travel and go see your grandkids, right? And everything in between. So go check out my website, virtualexperttraining.com. And I have lots of free resources there. Click on free tools. You can take a quiz to see what you might want to specialize in. There's free training on there, all kinds of free resources for you.
Kathy, that's awesome. I'll make sure I get all of those relevant links from you. I'll put them in the show notes, in the description, so everyone can see them and find them when they're looking for them. That'll be fantastic. Kathy, it's been absolutely awesome having you on Time We Discuss, and we learned what it's like to be not only a virtual assistant, but also the owner of the Virtual Expert Training.
Yeah. And if you think, I want to try that, I highly recommend trying it, because this can be the springboard to anything you want to do.
I love that, Kathy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me on.